Welcome to the British Latino Network. Today we have Daniel Flores with us. It's our first audio recording of an interview. We've had previous interviews with other British Latinos who are doing their bit in the UK, who are working in their distinct fields and who are gradually moving up in their respective fields. Today we have Daniel. Daniel will be talking about his experience, his background, and he will be sharing some advice also on what he would like to say to you British Latinos and Latinos alike, all of us. So yes, we have Daniel here with us today, so I just want to welcome you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. Thanks for considering me, and thanks for the opportunity for letting me share my story and hopefully be able to help some of you guys out in achieving or changing the way that you look at things.
Great. It's good to have you here. So Daniel, give us a bit of an insight into your background, where you're from, and also your educational background.
Okay, so my background is basically I came to England when I was 9 years old. I'm from Bolivia, and I came here when I was 9 years old. Followed my parents, and since then I've been living here. Had my education, primary, secondary, university, and I've had the privilege to experience my own culture as well as see the difference between the cultures, the European culture and the English culture, to see what the differences are and what the best things are to take from each one.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of your background from an educational perspective, what is it?
Yeah, so my background, I've actually going to graduate, and my degree is in international business. The way I came around sort of choosing international business was I've always been interested in business. Initially though, however, I had thoughts in my head about, doing things like medicine, which is an absolutely amazing subject and amazing thing to do because you get to help people. But I thought that maybe I was doing it more because of my family or my parents and stuff like that. So I decided to actually, let me choose something that I actually want to do, something that I will be happy with. And that's why I came with international business. Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's interesting. And I think we're going to touch on the importance of also being able to understand your purpose based on your actual interests, because sometimes we can be pressured into a career, pressured into a subject, into even any choice in our life by our immediate community or the community, the society in general. So we are going to touch on that. How did you find the whole transition from coming straight from Bolivia to London? How was that for you? What things did you find to be, what did you like, but what did you also find challenging?
Yeah, so I would say, which is something that's very obvious, is obviously the language difference. Coming from, I did do English back in Bolivia, but it's not that, obviously you're not speaking about it every day. And upon moving here, obviously you come here and you see everyone speaking English, you don't understand what's going on, you don't know who's who. And to be honest, at that age, because I was quite young, moving here at 9, it doesn't impact you as much. You only start to notice it as you start to settle in. So the main differences would be, the educational system, the type of work, the type of people, the way that people would interact with each other, the type of conversations, and the essentially the more you settle in, the more you see the difference. And I think one of the main points to cover when moving from one country to another is the difference in culture.
Mm-hmm.
You realize that as a Latino, you have such a different upbringing and such a different view on different aspects of life and the way things work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just about adjusting to your surroundings while maintaining your roots.
Mm-hmm. And how do you find that because essentially you've spent more or less an equal amount of your time of your life in the UK now, as compared to what you spent in Bolivia. How do you feel like this experience, because essentially being raised or growing up multiculturally, because you came here to the UK with the Bolivian culture, which was innate to you, but then you've also adapted this new culture. How do you feel that shaped you, the way you think, and perhaps how has that maybe even fed into other areas of your life, like your profession now, what you've chosen to study, and now what you're also doing?
So I think the way that it shaped me is, first of all, moving from a country where all your family is and all your friends to a country where you don't know anyone and you don't speak the language and stuff like that really impacts you as a young person. And the way that it has moving here has influenced me is, first of all, not being closed in a way that I live in a country and I'm aware of what's happening in the country and I don't know what the other cultures are, and I don't know what people are like. I don't know what, you don't know what people are thinking, what they value and stuff like that. So you really get to see the difference in the way people carry themselves.
So you can appreciate different cultures, different ways of thinking.
Yeah, so it's definitely a massive difference in the way people think and in the culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things that I would really encourage all the British Latinos or any Latinos in the world is to essentially not to forget where you come from.
Yeah.
Because you should be proud of where you are, where you're from.
Mm-hmm.
You should be proud of of your roots. And even though if you think that it's silly, you are different, you are special, you are unique, and you are one of the lucky ones that has been able to experience varieties in cultures and sort of, different views.
Mm-hmm. How important do you think it is, not just for yourself, but also for the British Latinos in the UK? Because, and what I mean is in terms of preserving your heritage, because, sometimes I feel like there's people believe or people think that a trade-off exists between the two, where in order for you to integrate into the British society, you sort of have to push aside your heritage.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that? I personally don't, and also how important do you actually think that it is to preserve your heritage?
Unfortunately, I think that, as a young person or as a young adult, you sort of you have this social influence, right? And that will be anywhere. It wouldn't be just, even in your home country. Mm-hmm. You have the social influence, you have the social pressure, you have family and stuff like that. But in terms of kind of moving to the UK and preserving your heritage, I think that, as I said before, you need to be proud, because you're essentially, you're the future of your country. Mm-hmm. You represent first of all, you represent yourself, you represent your family, and you represent your race. Mm-hmm. which you should always try and do in a positive way. Now, one of the things that happens, as you said, is that, about, letting go of your heritage because you're coming into a British culture and stuff like that. Like you, I don't really agree with that. I'll be honest with you, when I first came, I sort of did let the environments influence me and sort of lost my way in terms of, my focus and my goals. And I think that's very important to not let go of your culture, know where you come from, to know where you're going. So don't ever let someone else tell you how you should be or why you should be.
So Daniel, moving on now, who would you say, who inspires you? Who inspires you, Daniel?
So, I mean, my role models primarily would be my parents. They've taught me and they've made me who I am. But in terms of a more broader scale, I would say that it's a mixture between Muhammad Ali and more currently Gary Vee. Now, the reason why I say Muhammad Ali is because I really admired the way that he carried himself. He didn't let anyone talk him down. He didn't let anyone influence his thoughts.
Yeah.
And the way that he would, the way when he was interviewed and the way when people ask him questions, he would just come up with different examples out of this world that you never really think of anyone would say. Like, what's the saying? Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
Yeah.
Who would actually say that? But it actually makes sense.
Creativity.
But he just inspires you to think positively and not let anyone kind of affect your confidence. And he was being confident in such a massive way that whatever you say and whatever you speak comes to life, and you see the fruits of it. Now, in terms of Gary Vee, it's obviously a massive difference between a sportsman and a businessman. The reason why I admire Gary Vee, even though he is very explicit in the way that he speaks, he's not afraid, again, to let people know exactly what he thinks and let the world know what he wants, and he won't let anyone influence that. Now, he's also very big in promoting happiness. So obviously, if you follow him or if you know him, you'll see that he talks about, businesses and kind of the hustle and grinding and stuff like that. But his main focus is basically doing what you love and being happy with yourself, to have a happy life. Be it that if your goal is to, if your life goal and you're happy with, if you want to do sports, then you do sports. If you want to do business, you do business. If you want to fly a plane, fly a plane. Or if you're happy, if you're happy being, working in the streets and helping people or stuff like that, don't let anyone influence and tell you that you're wrong.
So something that I take from the two people you've mentioned, I'll be totally honest. I know more of Ali than of Gary Vee. I've heard of Gary Vee, and like you, I've also seen his explicitness, which is good. What I always say is that what I do take from both of them is that they share a common feature, which is competitiveness. Yeah. And I think that's an important trait to have, to be competitive. But also, both of them are they're very clear about what they want, about what they like, what their fields are.
And very humble as well.
Exactly. So what would you say, how important for you are these two features, being competitive, being clear about what you want, and actually, how important is humbleness also, And how do you feel like this applies to your life now at the current stage you're at?
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of competitiveness, I think that, you know, there's different levels of competitiveness. There's a level of, I've always been told, too much of something and too little of something is bad for you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're very competitive, it's good, but it can get to a level where you actually start to harm yourself.
Yeah.
And, you know, not physically but mentally, and then, you know, your loved ones and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that you need to find a balance in terms of being competitive with yourself first of all, so that you improve yourself as a person and as a human being overall.
Mm-hmm.
Not taking into consideration what other people have told you or want you to do.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of humbleness, I think that it's very important to not think that you are, you know, because you're in a certain position, you might, I don't know, you might be earning this amount of money. You don't go and, you know, you don't talk to people like they're no one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you gotta remember, you started from zero. Your parents came from zero. I mean, and even if you were handed a fortune, you gotta know that people are people.
Mm-hmm.
People are not robots. So that they're not here to, you know, people are not here to. Unfortunately, there has been a shift in terms of consumerism and in terms of the way people think superficially,
Mm-hmm.
Which is not humble in a certain way. So yeah, just always stay humble. Remember where you're from, and be competitive with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And compete with others as well, but have a healthy competition, not something that will, you know, ruin your aspects and your prospects. Sorry.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think a point can be reached where it becomes toxic, essentially, where you can be competitive. Being competitive is good, and I would say that being competitive with yourself is probably the best type of competition that exists.
Yeah.
And I think when you do find other people who are maybe in the same field as you or in other fields, perhaps admiration will probably be the best route to take. You know, admire, learn from them, and then also apply that to your own life.
Yeah, I mean, talking about, you know, mainstream kind of things, there's always going to be someone better than you, regardless of what you do. Is someone always going to be either better or at the same level? So let's take into, I know, as an example, Ronaldo or Messi. All right, so
the massive debate,
right? Which one's better? Who's better? You know, at what they do. But essentially, if Messi was by himself, I'm sure he'll still be really good, but he wouldn't be as good as because if Ronaldo wasn't there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So it's just having that mutual, you know, first of all, the respect for each other and that competition, that, you know, healthy competition. And you can take that example to many other things. You know, you got Ronaldo and Messi, you got I can't remember right now. But yeah.
I think something you actually mentioned is quite interesting because or maybe perhaps you, the listeners, don't know, but I actually have a background in science, and something that I actually read this morning was that our competition, or our performance in a competition, or our performance in completing a task, be it running, be it homework, be it whatever, actually improves when there's someone against us.
Yeah.
And I think that just speaks to our innate desire to, you know, to push,
work together.
Exactly, and to improve our performance. So I think wherever it is you are, whatever job you're doing, whatever course you're studying, it is important for you to understand what the current bar of quality is, the standard, but then also the most important competition you can have is with yourself. So moving on now, I would like the audience to know a bit more about yourself now, in terms of, we've spoken about your background, we've spoken about your childhood, the heritage aspect, what you thought about them, people who inspire you. But I also want them to know what you're currently doing now, and we'll then after move into what your aspirations are for the future also.
Okay, so what I currently do, so I'm a R&D tax relief consultant in London. And
Can you explain what that means to us?
Yeah, so my role is basically we go and speak to different clients, different companies, and essentially we're looking for companies that are undergoing research and development in their respective fields. So, we look for, are they, this company trying to improve a process, and are they trying to make an improved product or stuff like that. I won't bore you with the exact details, but essentially we're just looking for something new. Something that is not out there. And if a company's doing that, then what we'll do is we'll analyze the financial data, analyze which sort of aspects you can use to claim back for R&D tax purposes. So my day-to-day activities varies between going to see clients, taking notes, writing reports, analyzing financials, communicating with the team back and forth about the best way to do things, communicating with HMRC. That's my current role. And in terms of kind of
future career prospects, aspirations.
Aspirations. What I think is I want to. My goal has changed over the years. So as a young person, you think, I want to have money, and I want to have I want to have a house with 7 bedrooms, or I want to live in this place, or whatever. But essentially, my goal now is to be happy, regardless of how that comes or where that comes from. I want to, first of all, be happy myself, make my wife happy, and future wife, make her happy, and essentially together build and represent the Latino community on a broader aspect. So I'm really proud to be Latino, and I think that what you're doing is really important, as I've said, letting people know about the Latinos and what we're capable of. Our talent is untapped. So I think that my future aspirations is to let the world know, that we're here, and we're here to make a change, and you need to watch out.
Definitely. And I think we can take quite a lot from the example of the Latino community in America. They're well established. They've been there for generations. But the importance of that community is going to become significantly crucial in the coming years, because they're going to be a really important voting demographic in the US. And we can only take from the examples of people who have done community work, who have done work which improves not just the immediate Latino community, but the other communities, minority communities also, and just communities in general, the work they've done to improve certain aspects of quality of living.
Yeah.
What do you think for you? What does being a Latino, a British Latino specifically, because despite our origins and our heritage that we share with Latinos from the US, the fact that we live in the UK and the fact that we've grown up in the UK, what does it mean to you? What does when you hear the word British Latino, what does that mean to you?
So when I hear, British Latino, it's something that you don't really hear that often.
Mm-hmm.
You do hear about, American Latinos and stuff like that, because the presence is, as you were saying, it's massive down there.
Mm-hmm.
They have a huge spending power, and they have a huge influence in terms of swinging the political aspects and financial and stuff like that. So when I think about British Latinos, I don't see that presence that where there should be.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the studies that seen where not just the British Latinos, but a lot of ethnic minorities are not recognized.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you do like you fill up a form, it's very rare for you to see, Hispanic or British Latino or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Which has massive implications for public health.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's something that really needs to change, because the fact that I don't know currently where the ranking stands, but Spanish is the second or third most spoken language in the world currently, after I think Chinese and English.
Mm-hmm.
And people are gaining more interest about the Latinos and Spanish speakers and what it is that you like. You even see the influence in music.
Yeah.
It's becoming so much mainstream now.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important that as it becomes mainstream, don't become mainstream yourself.
Yeah.
But also maintain that authenticity of who you are and where you come, because that's what people like. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. And what do you think that upcoming Latinos, future British Latinos, future leaders, people who are already established, or students, who may be listening to this, what do you think can be done to make sure that, as you say, this opportunity where we're starting to see the Latino scene become more mainstream, that this opportunity isn't missed, and that it's not only tapped at a higher level, more superficial level, but it's actually tapped within the conversations we have with people in a shop, at our workplace, wherever it is we are, but we really make the most out of this opportunity at a more immediate level.
Yeah.
What do you think can be done?
I think I'm sort of, I'll be repeating kind of some of the things that I've said, but essentially what I believe is important is be loud.
Mm-hmm.
Be loud, not in terms of just go out in the street and start shouting, but be loud in the aspect of, if don't put other Latinos down.
Yeah.
Work together to become a community that's recognized not only in the UK or in your town or in whatever, just worldwide. And in terms of taking advantage of the acceleration of the exposure of Latinos in mainstream sort of media and culture, is that use that to your advantage, as in let people know where you're from.
Yeah.
They'll be interested. Explain as much as you can as in terms of the culture. Maintain your culture.
Yeah.
And don't forget your roots. Thank your parents for what they've done for you.
Yeah.
And work together with, you know, the new generations.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've got the first generation that moved into the UK.
Yeah.
They would have experienced massively the differences between the
language barriers specifically.
Yeah, the language barriers, and you've got the, you know, the work barriers, and you've got the, you know, the discrimination and sort of stuff like that, which shouldn't really be a factor anymore.
Yeah.
But sadly, it's just people are influenced to kind of, you know, make that sort of mainstream kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and taking advantage of the coverage that we're getting.
Yeah.
Is
It's important.
make use of it, but don't change it, and don't overdo it. Don't
be efficient essentially with the way you
be smart
make
in the
your
way
point.
be smart in the way that you carry yourself.
Yeah. Okay. And we're nearing the end of this conversation. Just before we finish, I've got two more questions, and one of them is important. I'm sure it's going to be important to you, but I think it's also important that every one of us makes this, asks this question to ourselves, so that we have this point of reflection. And I think it's really important for us to spend some time and really reflect on how far we've come, where we're going. But the question that I actually want to ask you, and the question that I want all of you to ask yourself, is what piece of advice would you give to the Daniel of 5 years ago?
It's a really good question. The advice I would give myself, essentially, that a younger me, is don't be influenced, because, you know, with I'm sure if you're new to the UK, or if you've been here only a few years, you would have noticed a difference if you're in school, or you would have noticed a difference in your grades, or in what you're doing, or what it is that you're liking to do and stuff like that. And the reason is because you are influenced essentially by the friends that you carry yourself around. So that's very important. Don't let yourself be influenced, but at the same time be influenced, but by the right people.
Yeah. So,
you know, there's a saying: "Tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you where you're going."
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the correct saying, but it's essentially, you know, it just means that make sure that you surround yourself with the right sort of people.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know, over the years, you can agree with me on that.
Yeah.
That if with competition as well, if you have someone that is, you know, their aspiration is to, I don't know, moan about everything.
Yeah.
What's going to happen is you're going to start moaning.
Yeah.
Right? So if you have a positive mentality, if you have a positive attitude and positive energy, and you hang around someone which has a negative energy, essentially your energy is going to it's going to be taken away by them.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be happy, because that's I mean, if they're happy not being happy, then that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
But if you're not happy, then don't let that influence you. So in to wrap it up, I think the most important thing is not to be influenced by the social pressures.
Okay. Yeah, and I think sometimes when we ask that question, it's quite difficult for us to really gather our thoughts and really organize our thoughts, because
Yeah.
sometimes if we think about it, really, all of our thoughts that we have on a day-to-day basis, they're mainly projecting towards the future.
Yeah.
We're thinking, oh, what do I have to do later on? What do I have to do tomorrow? What do I have to
Yeah.
do? We hardly ever think, what did I do yesterday?
Yeah.
What did I do last week, the month before, a few years ago, that really has determined where you've gone to now? And I think it's so important for us to really take some time apart and really reflect on certain aspects of our life.
Analyze your progress and analyze where you, So, I mean, if I was to compare where I was, and it's true, like I haven't really given it much thought, as you said, because it's just something that as a person, you just kind of think, okay, I have a meeting tomorrow or next week, and I've got a dentist appointment, or I need to go get my hair cut, blah, blah, blah. But you don't really think about what's already happened. And I think it's important, like you said, to, be able to know what you did, what you're doing now, and what you're going to be doing later.
Yeah.
Because that would really determine and show you if you've made progress. And if you haven't made progress, then you really got to take some time for yourself. And I mean for yourself, do whatever it is that makes you feel at ease. Have a think to yourself, right, so I'm here. Why am I here? Because I've done this, or this has happened, and blah, 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 blah. Is this where I want to be? If it is, perfect. Carry on what you're doing, but don't stay there. Always keep progressing and getting better.
Yeah.
And if it's not where you want to be, then, really think about, right, I need to sit down and collect my thoughts and think, this is what I need to do to change this particular thing in order to change and get to where you want to be. It's always important to have that goal. And I've gathered this, it's human psychology. If you have a goal, you'll always do better. So if you have a goal as to a grade that you want to get, then you're obviously going to study better.
Yeah.
If you have a goal of how much money you want to save, you're going to, stuff like that. If you want to save towards a holiday, you're going to make some sacrifices in terms of what you buy or what you eat or what you're spending on. Whereas if you don't have these goals, you just do it.
Yeah.
So you don't have that perspective.
Yeah. So finally, just to close, the final question is, what piece of advice would you give to British Latinos, be them young, middle-aged, older Latinos living in the UK, in London, in the UK?
Yeah.
What advice would you give them?
Don't be complacent. Don't be complacent, and also don't be narrow-minded, as in, say to yourself, I'm a Latino. You're proud of being a Latino, and of course you should be, but go out and speak to other cultures and mix with other cultures. Don't just stay and I'm Peruvian, I'm Ecuadorian, I'm Bolivian, and I'm a Colombian, and just kind of stick with that.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to change. You're not going to see a different way of looking at things. You're not going to improve, or you're just not going to see things
from a different perspective.
Exactly. So whereas if you know a variety of different people, I've been lucky enough to meet people from all over the world, and it just fascinated me to see the different levels of motivation, different levels of competitiveness, and different levels of different ways of thinking, which I would have never have thought, because I wasn't exposed to those.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, in general, whatever the age you are, if you're young, if you're middle-aged, if you're older kind of generation, just don't be too narrow-minded in the aspect of, you're never too young, you're never too old to learn. So even when to my to my last days, I think that I can always learn something new, and I can always meet someone or talk to someone or do something that's different to what I've done before.
Yeah.
And then it does come into play what you said before, like you need to look behind and see what you've done to know what you want to do.
Definitely. And well, that's we've come to the end of our conversation, our interview. It's been a pleasure to speak to you, and I'm sure that the audience have enjoyed learning about you, but they've also had some points to reflect also about their own trajectories, where they're going to, where they've come from. And I think that that's one of the purposes of these conversations, not only to share the stories of untold stories like yourself. I mean, if no one knows about what you've been doing, how you've done it, where you've come from, no one will ever be able to really receive that information and be inspired by it. So it's not only about that, but also giving you, the audience, the opportunity to take some time to reflect on your journey and also be inspired and motivated to really go out and fulfill your potential. And like I said some weeks ago on a post shared on our Instagram, there really is a massive untapped potential in the British Latino community in the UK. And you represent that potential that actually becomes something. So you need to really get to work, start reflecting on what's gone wrong, what's gone right, and just carry on. So Daniel, I just want to say thank you for coming on, and it's been a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Like I said, thanks for the opportunity, for letting me, share the story and what's sort of happened, what's happening, and I mean, the story still has a lot to grow.
We'll definitely have you back on then.
It's an ongoing process of achieving where I want to get. But don't forget where you're from. Live your best life, but also be responsible and represent us and yourself to the best that you can.
Yeah, thank you. Quickly before we finish, I also want to, if you'd be interested in also coming on and sharing your story, you can email us on comms.bln@outlook.com, or you can send us a private message through our Instagram, which is the British Latino Network, @British Latino Network on Instagram. We would love to hear from you, and thank you for tuning in, and we hope to hear you, and we hope to have you around here next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.